Happy Easter, he is risen. Yeah, we still get to say that. It's still the octave of Easter, and of course the Easter season goes on for 50 days. I'm Jerry Usher with Debbie Georgianni. Thanks for being with us for Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Happy Easter again today, Debbie. How are you?
Yes, happy Easter. Hallelujah. I love saying that all the time.
Yeah.
It's great to make the most of the season. Yeah.
Every Sunday I make what I call my pilgrimage to Costco. And this gentleman, I had to return something on Sunday, and the gentleman, very, very kind behind the desk, and it wasn't Sunday. They were closed on Easter. It was Monday. And because the reason I was confused there is because I said to him when I was leaving, I said, Happy Easter. And he goes, yeah, belated. And I said, no. I said, for us Catholics, it's Easter for 8 days. And he kind of looked at me like, okay. But it was just a little opportunity to share, Easter greetings with him. So
yeah, very cool, very cool. Well, Jerry, we've got a jam-packed show today, and I think it's gonna and we've got so much to share with our Take Two family. So many things we want to keep them up to date on, and wow, I wish we had 10 hours to cover this, but we don't. So we're gonna have to go as fast as we possibly can.
Well,
Do you want to start first with Divine Mercy? Because Jerry, I've got my confession times picked out this weekend. I'm ready to go.
Well, we can let people know what the topic is and give them the number. But yeah, I want to share about Divine Mercy. But Rich Jesse, our producer, just let Dr. Ray know he's not going to be on today because Debbie and I are going to go 2 hours, okay?
A marathon.
Yeah, well, why don't we let people know? I think it's important. This is, like you said, it's going to be a jam-packed show, and we're already getting emails and comments, coming in about the topic today, Debbie. So why don't you let people know what we're talking about today?
Yeah, we titled the show Kids Choosing Sides. And what we mean by that is actually today is Parental Alienation Awareness Day. A lot of folks may not know that. They don't even, you're not even up to date on what that term means. We're going to try to share that with you in a succinct way because, unfortunately, I am a victim of parental alienation. And so over the past 11 and a half years, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about the millions of people that it affects. I've learned about their emotional state and what they're dealing with. I've been part of groups, that support groups. I've talked and I've shared stories with experts in the field. I mean, I've done a lot. I probably could have gotten some kind of undergraduate degree on it, unfortunately. But it affects so many of us, and there's a big stigma around it, and I want to share the background of it so that you understand, because it could be somebody in your family that's dealing with it right now, or a friend, and you don't know what it means, and all you're thinking of, it must mean the worst. They must be an abusive parent or something of that nature. And it's very, very... It's an epidemic, and it's reaching millions of families, and it can be in intact families or the aftermath of divorce. So we'll talk more about that, but we're talking about kids choosing sides. If you have had this experience with your kids, especially coming through after a divorce, a post-divorce conflict, or anything of that nature, please call us and share with us your emotional state, where you're at with it. Do you understand it better? Do you see what's happened? Is there something you can do to help you cope with it? The number is 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986.
Okay, we know these lines are going to be full because we've done this topic before, and it was very, very busy on the phones. 833-288-3986. You can start calling now. Ryan Penny is on the phones screening your calls. Rich Jesse on the engineering board and the producer, and Jeff Burson does our social media, and thank you, affiliates, for carrying the program as well. Debbie, you mentioned I wanted to talk about Divine Mercy Sunday. It's coming up this Sunday, as probably you all know. It's still the octave of Easter, though. Easter is an 8-day, what we call an octave, and so it's sort of the 8th day of the octave of Easter. And being Divine Mercy Sunday, Jesus, in his apparitions to St. Faustina in Poland, she wrote the diary of St. Faustina on Divine Mercy. Jesus told her about a promise that he would give her and give to anybody who wanted to take advantage of this. And it's the equivalent of a plenary indulgence. But what it is, you don't have to do the indulgence act or prayer. You don't have to pray for the Holy Father's intentions. You don't have to be detached from all sin. These are the things that normally are required for a plenary indulgence, which is the complete elimination of all temporal punishment due to sin. on Divine Mercy Sunday, if you have gone to confession recently, and that includes during Lent, and you receive Holy Communion and you ask for mercy, this is what Jesus promises, folks. He promises that you have all your sins forgiven and all temporal punishment due to those sins is taken away. And what I liken it to, Debbie, is we all have computers and that little trash icon. How often do you go down there and empty your trash? Well, this Sunday is a chance to do that in your entire life. It's like the theologian that John Paul II assigned to dig into this and really kind of uncover the meaning of divine mercy, Debbie. He called it almost. He wasn't said it was equivalent, but he called it almost like a second baptism. So folks, please avail yourselves of this. If you have to pester your priest to go to confession in the middle of the night, do it. Just make sure you get these graces on Divine Mercy Sunday.
Beautiful. I hope everybody takes part in it, Jerry. Thank you for sharing that. And folks, so today we're talking about kids choosing sides, and phone lines are just starting to fill up. That's great. There's plenty of room for you. Please, let's talk about this, have a real deep discussion about this, and so we can walk away with a better understanding of what people are going through at 1-833-288-3986. And Jerry, looking at the clock, do I have time to read about 3 paragraphs about the definition of parental alienation?
What the lady wants, the lady gets. You have all the time you want before the break and after, if you want.
Okay. So I just want to read this because I've sent things to friends and family members because they didn't understand it. I mean, I could use that term parental alienation, but people didn't understand it. So I had to send them a lot of information so they could understand what I was going through. And this comes off of parental alienation awareness site.org. And I'm endorsing any of these sites, but they have the information there so that you can understand and educate yourself. So it says, raising awareness of parental alienation and hostile aggressive parenting. Did you know that parental alienation is a form of child abuse? Hostile aggressive parenting is a group of behaviors that are damaging to children's mental and emotional well-being and can interfere with the relationship of a child and either parent. These behaviors most often accompany high conflict marriages, separation, or divorce. These behaviors, whether verbal or nonverbal, cause a child to be mentally manipulated or bullied into believing that a loving parent, listen to this, folks, a loving parent is the cause of all of their problems and or the enemy, to be feared, hated, disrespected, and avoided. Okay, I'm going to finish the other part of this that is I know that so many of you are dealing with right now. So I'll finish the definition of this so you can get a better understanding of what we're talking about today. Kids choosing sides. That's what we're discussing today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
We know you like listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, but have you thought about bringing them to your next event? No matter what type of event you're hosting, parish mission, conference, or retreat, trust Jerry and Debbie to make it come alive. Begin the process today of taking your presentation to the next level of success. For information on booking Jerry and Debbie, visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo.
Father John Riccardo.
When the Word of God is proclaimed, and in a special way when the Gospel is proclaimed, it's an event happening in our midst, which is calling forth from you and me very concretely today, as whatever it is that's going on in my life, I come to Mass, I hear the Word, and now I have to respond to it. Always, every time. Whatever it is, my response is called for. It's not just listening to someone read who then makes some comments. One of the best things that lay people can do on their way to Mass is pray that those of us who are going to preach will say something inspiring. If for no other reason, for your benefit. Pray for us. I know many of you do, but those of you who don't, pray for us. Pray that the Lord would open up our ears to hear what it is He wants to say to us, to communicate to you. Otherwise, you're going to sit through something really tedious, which none of us want to do.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on this Easter Thursday. Good to have you with us. I'm Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani. The phone number 833-288-EWTN or 3986, talking about parental alienation. Have you been involved in a situation where one of the parents basically turn the kids against the other parent in some manner. Feel free to join us on the conversation. Debbie's going to have a little bit more to share, but I wanted to mention another show, Bear Wozniak Adventure, Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on most of these EWTN stations. If you know Bear, he lives in Hawaii, and he did that TV series on EWTN, The Long Ride Home. He and a bunch of men and a priest, Father Mark Goring from Houston, traveled across the country on their motorcycles, and you can hear Bear Wozniak Adventure Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, so keep your dial right here.
Right. That's a great show. Great show. Okay, so kids choosing sides, if you would want to share your experience of this, please call in at 1-833-288-3986. Why are we doing this today? It's Parental Alienation Awareness Day. You may not know that, but I know that, unfortunately. So if you want to share your experience, we would definitely love to hear from you. Okay, I wanted to continue with this explanation of parental alienation and hostile aggressive parenting, Jerry, because many folks, they hear these terms, but they don't understand what it means. So parental alienation and hostile aggressive parenting deprive children of their right to be loved by and showing love for both of their parents. The destructive actions by an alienating parent or other third person, like another family member or even a well-meaning mental health care worker, can become abusive to the child, as the alienating behaviors are disturbing, confusing, and often frightening to the child, and can rob the child of their sense of security and safety, leading to maladaptive emotional or psychiatric reactions. Most people, now this is the key, Jerry, most people do not know about parental alienation and hostile aggressive parenting until they experience it. Parental alienation awareness is put forth to help raise awareness about the growth and the problem of targeting children and their relationship in healthy and loving parent-child bond. Now, Jerry, this is interesting. Let's just say this, because we've done shows on marriages, we've done shows on divorce and stuff, and we get folks that email us and saying, okay, I had a spouse that was highly abusive. It was a horrible situation. We're not talking about that, folks. We're not talking about that. When you have a serious, very dangerous situation with serious abuse in the family, the church the church speaks about that in the catechism. The church is there to help you and support you and get you out of those unsafe situations. We're not talking about this. We're talking about a loving two parents that love that child so much, and one parent decides, okay, that they're going to manipulate the system and break the bonds that they have with that other parent. And it's a very diabolical, intentional attempt to do it. It is not something that just happens, naturally out of divorce. This is a really aggressive way of breaking the relationship with the other loving parent. That's what we're talking about today, folks. So if you have, unfortunately, a situation of abuse, a real serious abuse in a marriage or divorce or even the post-divorce, we're not talking about that. That is a dangerous situation, and you have to do whatever it takes to protect you and the children. Absolutely. We're talking about loving parents here, and one chose to do something really awful to the other parent. And unfortunately, Jerry, I know you're going to ask me this. I have been the victim of this for 11 and a half years. So I'll just come right out and say it. I virtually have had pretty much, well, actually, it's pretty non-existent relationship with my two boys, my two grown adult boys, and their wives, and my grandchildren. I've had virtually no relationship in 11 and a half years because of the attempts made to break which was once a very loving, kind, beautiful relationship
in
that
other
I
words,
had.
to turn their hearts against you. Is that kind of
Yes.
what you're saying? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That's basically what happens in this. Okay.
Yeah. And here's the sad thing about it, Jerry. If I were to go out on the street and meet somebody for the first time and I said, "Oh, I haven't had a relationship with my kids in 11 and a half years," you know what their first thought is? You must have been a horrible parent.
Yeah,
you must have been.
They would look at you with suspicion and judgment. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And so that's why there's millions of us hide. We just hide because we don't know how to express it. That's why these days like this, it's unfortunate we have to have a day like this, but to raise awareness that this is really happening. And it happens in intact families and divorced families. It happens at any time. It could happen with other family members, with grandparents. now there's grandparents suing for grandparents' rights because people have been torn away from grandparents. It's very sad. And by the way, let me just share with you, I haven't had a real relationship with my kids in 11 and a half years. My mother hasn't either. My dad didn't. They were not at my dad's funeral. Okay. And, my one son is named after my father. So very sad. I mean, it affects so much of the family. But I will tell you this, Jerry, this is what I did learn real quickly before we get to the phones. I learned from experts, and I learned from many, many people who have studied this since 1994, Jerry, that I am the better parent. I am the better parent. And I can say that with confidence, and I feel very good about saying that. And so that's what keeps me going, because I don't have to hide. I know that I was the better parent, and I am the better parent.
Okay, we do have a lot of calls to get to here. One line is still open. If what Debbie said, if any of that resonates in your heart and you would like to share your experience. Again, we're not judging anyone here. We're not getting into a lot of the details, the gory details. Debbie, as she said early on, we just kind of want to know, take your temperature, or you take your own temperature, how you doing with the situation, and maybe you just want to air it for a few seconds and get a consoling word or something. 833-288-3986. God, of course, is the only one who knows all the details. So we're going to start with Kelly. Todd, hang on in Wyoming. We're going to start with Kelly in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, listening on iHeartRadio to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Kelly. Welcome.
Hi, Jerry and Debbie. Debbie, first and foremost, my heart just broke when I heard what you said about your children. I can't even imagine. I absolutely could not imagine. I have been separated from my husband for 7 years. Neither one of us have done anything about getting a divorce. I personally do not want to get a divorce. Now, there's alcoholism issues there, but I've dealt with his brother and his wife. I mean, they have just torn their children apart to the point where neither one of their children now really wants much to do with either parent from this badgering of it. But I have the 3 children, and I was forced, unfortunately, to a degree, to actually keep them protected so much from their father. I grew up very much idolizing my father. My parents were divorced, and they were good to each other. I was very, very blessed. They never badmouthed one another. They were good to each other. It still damaged me. It still broke my heart. However, we never had any of that. My dad would come with his new wife to Christmases. We were very fortunate. But people don't see the damage they're doing to their children when they do this to one another. Now, again, like you said, if it's violent or if it's abusive, that's a different story. But these are just people that, for God wants that they love that other person and created life, and that both of them deserve to share in that. It just tears my heart out. And when you said what you said about your family, I mean, I just, oh, my heart breaks for you. But my issue is that both my girls, when I left, actually took it upon themselves to literally loathe their father because they saw what the alcoholism destroyed us. My son was only 8, so I did what I could for a while to keep him, seeing him with him being safe. Now, I mean, we're talking, my middle child is 20 years old. She's very bright. She's very gifted. She has her own issues. But I have been trying to help my husband. I felt like it's been put upon me from the Lord to help him. He's gone through some, illegal issues with, drinking and driving. And, it's hard for me, but it's just, I have to put my own feelings aside, which is not easy, and just be there for him. She's angry. She doesn't want me to do it. And I understand. She's like, I just don't think that, you should have a life now without that burden. I said, I chose your father. And I said, listen, I'm okay. But there's other issues too, where she's angry about things that maybe I didn't do right. Of course, I was a single mom. I was busy. I was there for them constantly. But it's very hard because I want to do, and I'm going to, what the Lord calls me to do first. And first and foremost, I felt very hard go through the marriage because I had to put my children first. And it gave this block to their dad. And I always wanted my children to look at their father like I did, and they don't. And they can't. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them one bit. I really don't. But I'm having a hard time in my heart saying, okay, do I choose my kids again and not talk to them? I can't do that. I can't do that.
Okay, so Kelly,
we look for people to help and be there for, and he's in my life that I could be helpful.
So Kelly,
And I'm just a little scared,
Yeah, no, I get it. We can hear your heart, Kelly, and you're a beautiful person. And thank you for sharing this, and thank you for the kind words of, and I really
absolutely.
appreciate it. But Kelly, a couple things in your situation. I mean, with the alcoholism, you have that addiction there that that becomes of serious nature. I didn't have that in my family. There was no alcoholism.
Right,
There wasn't
okay.
any of that. So this was definitely a manipulative attempt to break the bonds, and that's a different category. But let me share something with you, because I'm not a counselor or professional in this, but I've studied a lot in 11 and a half years. So let me just share this with you.
Right.
There's always time. There's hope and healing in every situation. The good Lord never gives up until until we take our last breath here on earth. So there's always time for reunification. There's always time for healing. There are services and people and experts out there right now, Kelly, that can help your daughters, can help you, can help your husband. There's hope in that. The problem is we don't put sometimes the effort behind that, and you've got to get everybody together on it in the same page and say, you know what, this is our end goal. Our end goal is we're gonna heal. We're gonna heal from this somehow, and the good Lord will provide, I believe, the right people to come into your path to help that. It sounds like you have made that determination that you'd like to do that again, but I just want to say there is hope out there, especially if your husband can get help with his addiction and his situation, and then he can come around. If that doesn't happen, well, then you're in a different position. Okay, then you have to make some choices for self-preservation and for your daughters, for their emotional state as well. But if it's coming around in a good direction, because Kelly, I just want to say one other thing real quickly. I believe, this is my personal opinion, not the Catholic Church's opinion, my opinion, that Satan knows our weaknesses, okay? And he wasn't happy in just breaking up 50%, 60%, 70, 80% of divorces, okay? He went after the family dynamic. He went after the family itself. And then he continues on and he plays on our weaknesses. And you know what happens? Before you know it, we're all broken apart. And I believe that there is hope in that. So I just want to say, take it to prayer. Look for the right people to come into your path, and God willing, you can bring that hope and healing into your family. What do you think, Jerry?
Actually, I was just sitting here listening, marveling at how eloquent you stated all of that. I'd just like to maybe toss it back to Kelly. I can't add anything to that, but Kelly, you're a beautiful heart and a beautiful soul, and you obviously have every person in this scenario in your heart and their best interests in mind. But I would echo what Debbie said. What do you think, Kelly?
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I guess the hardest part is knowing that all these years we try to get him to get help, but, that's got to be his decision. And I have to just protect, like she said, and I still think getting maybe treatment and some maybe family counseling for me, even just me and the kids, would be efficacious. Absolutely a good idea. Absolutely. Yeah. And it would help, to keep our bond, you know what I mean, as strong as it can be.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Kelly, it's beautiful that you want that. You said you don't want a divorce, and your husband hasn't taken that step either. So as Debbie said, with God, all things are possible, Kelly. So just continue to just unite yourself with Jesus right now. Let him be just the love of your life. Let him be everything in your life. Spend time in adoration. Pray the rosary. Ask our Blessed Mother. And, of course, St. Joseph. St. Joseph is a real help in this as well. But, Kelly, thank you for the call.
Thank you, Kelly.
The phone lines are just blazing here, so we're going to get back to the next one. Debbie, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add before we do. But
I just want to say you guys are flooding in with comments and texts and emails. This weekend, we will get back to you. I mean, I know everybody has a different story but some experience of this. So we really, we just hope you can understand. Just have a little patience with us. Todd, now it is Buffalo. Wyoming? Is Buffalo, Wyoming?
Yeah, it's is that in northeast Wyoming, right, Todd?
Wow,
North Central,
Todd.
Yep, it's on Interstate 90.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. Thanks for calling, Todd.
Yeah.
What's going on?
The gospel of Jesus Christ is the truth and the only truth. And there's a web page at BibleWay.org. If people go there, they can see all they do there is preach the word, the gospel, no man-made anything.
So Todd, are you? Is this an
gospel.
anti-Catholic call, Todd? Is that what you're doing? You're dissing the Catholic Church? I thought you had a question on the topic.
Doesn't the Catholic Church believe the gospel is the truth? What do you mean?
Yes, the Catholic Church wrote the Gospels, Todd.
you think I'm dissing the Catholic Church? What brought that up?
That's not our topic on the show today. You're promoting a website that we have no knowledge of. Todd, thanks for the call. We'll maybe let the theology staff at the network handle that. But anyway, we're going to go to Janice next, and Janice is in San Diego, beautiful San Diego, California. Welcome, Janice. Thanks for calling.
Hi, thank you so much. Debbie, I didn't hear your story. Unfortunately, I was speaking to the screener, so I don't know really your story of alienation. I heard just a little bit, but I wanted to share a little bit of my experience as a grandparent of my granddaughter who has been severely alienated from my son, her father. They divorced only after 2 years of marriage. And,
Janice, forgive me, Janice. I made the mistake of, I didn't look at the clock, Janice. We've got a hard break coming up here in 30 seconds. Please forgive me. It's the Easter season. I ask your forgiveness, and I know you'll give it to me. I hope so anyway. But we'll give you all the time that you need on the other side of this break. This is just for our stations to do a little bit of business on their end. Take two with Jerry and Debbie talking about parental alienation. We do have that one phone line open that Todd was on, 833-288-3986. Please join us.
Teresa Tomeo.
It's our goal to help each and every listener take this beautiful faith of ours out into the public square with great ideas on making a difference through engaging the culture.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Hello, this is Brian Kemper of Priest for Life with Pro-Life Update. Many of you pray the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. Did you know that this prayer was given to St. Faustina especially because of the sin of abortion? God revealed to her that because of this evil, the world needs His mercy more than ever. He even permitted St. Faustina to suffer special pains, representing the pain of abortion. On Divine Mercy Sunday this weekend, please pray for the many people who seek forgiveness from abortion by coming to Rachel's Vineyard, which operates under the umbrella of Priest for Life and is the largest ministry in the world for healing after abortion. Not only do we provide retreats, but we also enable people to make the long journey of healing through various forms of individual counseling. May God's mercy come to all.
This is Brian Kemper on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
And we need to pray for all our world leaders and all those who are in such danger. See, in a day and age where people are getting further away from God, you get further away from goodness. Only God is good. You remember what our Lord said one day? Why do you call me good, He said. Only God is good. Only God.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Tomorrow on More to Life, Forever Faithful.
We'll help you overcome the challenges that threaten your spiritual life.
Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Take two with Jerry and Debbie. Good to have you with us on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Janice, I am so sorry again. I apologize for that. I love San Diego. I lived there 12 years before moving out here to the desert area in Coachella Valley. But Janice, go ahead. You were underway there, and I apologize for interrupting you.
Janice?
Okay. We're going
to
have to get... Yeah, there we go. Go ahead.
There you go.
Hello?
Yep.
You're on now.
Okay, thank you. So they were, we like you said, are in San Diego, and my son lives in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio. And so as time went on and they got divorced, she immediately took the child and basically my son always said, kind of kidnapped his daughter. And so through the courts and through the divorce, they worked out visitation and so forth and so on, but the accusations began immediately, false accusations of abuse by my son and all of this whole story that just was a made-up story. and we didn't really understand in the beginning what was happening, other than the stories, the false stories and the false narrative. And as time went on, it got worse and worse, and the alienation just became more deeper and deeper in my granddaughter, to the point where when she was 8, she was so alienated that from all of us, not just my son, but all of our side of the family, that we were just hated by this, by our granddaughter, and my son was called, not called father. He wasn't a father, and on and on and on it went with everything ugly imaginable. Well, we just really began, my husband and I, really storming heaven and praying and seeking, what can we do about this? This is so wrong. And we began to learn about parent alienation and identifying that was what was going on. And so, by the grace of God, something happened in our business, and something very good happened, and we were able to begin all of the legal process through a top attorney in Columbus who specialized in this, to start straightening this out and beginning the process of some justice. And so over took almost 3 years, and my son was awarded custody through this intense legal battle that we've been undergoing. And I want to say that there is hope, but the right resources need to be looked into, and the right way of going about getting that justice. And I have since discovered so many people in this high divorce age where the seeds are being planted for this, and it's not just by women, it's by men as well. Apparently, through our understanding, it's almost equal, where, they're both doing the alienating for one reason or another. And so I want to just say to anyone who's listening that if you know about this in your family, or you have a relative who is doing this to the other parent, to please, advise them and enlighten them that this behavior is so damaging. And like you said, Debbie, it is serious abuse to a person, to a soul. And our granddaughter has gone through a lot of counseling, and again, specialized counseling in parent alienation, and it has taken so much to try to heal the brokenness that has occurred.
Right.
But God has been miraculous, and there have been major breakthroughs. And it is very unusual for the court to take a parent away. You almost have to beg a judge to take your child away from you. It doesn't matter if you're in jail. It doesn't matter if you're incarcerated, if you're a drug addict. You will almost never have a judge take a child from a parent, because it is our legal right. But my daughter-in-law cannot see Bianca ever until she does what the court is asking her to do. And so severe was she alienated that the court went to the extreme measure of no contact whatsoever.
Wow.
So there can be a victory, and I just, I just want to give that shout out.
Well, Janice, you did, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I'm sorry you and your son and your granddaughter had to go through this. But you have, it looks like, there's a chance for a lot of hope and healing with your granddaughter having counseling, and your son now having a very active role in being her parent. The thing about it, Janice, is the reason why this happens and it goes silent and quiet and everybody hides from it, and there's so many alienated parents. I believe there's 10 million of us. That was the latest I heard, that they self-medicate, they fall into addiction, depression, some attempt suicide. I mean, it's absolutely horrific what happens to the alienated parents. Janice, unfortunately, your story is phenomenal. And I always tell everybody the first thing to do is pray to Lady Undoer of Knots when you're going through this. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. You went into deep prayer. And I always tell other people, please make sure you know that your guardian angel can talk to your children's guardian angels so you can stay connected that way. You can stay connected in the Eucharist if your children, were raised in the faith. And also, I always remind the parent, especially, let's put abusive situations and serious situations aside. This is like kind of the standard run-of-the-mill families we're talking about. Okay. I always tell them, you are the better parent. And I can't tell you how many times I've said that the parent starts crying, just bawling and saying, why would you say that? Everybody thinks I'm a horrible parent. No. And that's the big lie that we've all been told, that we have to kind of go underground because we can't express this. So Janice, your situation of telling this story is very important and is coming from a grandparent's perspective. Please continue to tell it to everybody you meet, because there are people that are hurting so badly. I belong to a support group that on Mother's Day, okay, there are posts on social media on Mother's Day of hundreds and hundreds of mothers that said, on this day, on this particular Mother's Day, I am going to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and start drinking until I fall asleep, until I pass out, because I can't handle this day anymore. So Janice, your story is important, and hope and healing and prayer and everything mixed in can help others start to deal with the emotional trauma that they have been inflicted with. So I just want to say thank you for sharing it from a grandparent's perspective.
Thank you, Debbie. Can I say one thing about that? Everything you described, my son went through. My son has suffered so immensely. Suicide, addiction, alcoholism, depression, all of it. And his entire life has been transformed through the victory of this situation. And so everything you're saying is, it has to come through really blood, sweat, and tears. But there is hope, and it can be resolved. And so thank you. I thank you for what you just shared with me. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, Janice,
Jerry?
thanks for sharing that story, because undoubtedly there are people listening who are perhaps where Janice's son was at one point, thinking all is lost, but we can certainly keep all things in prayer. Bless you, Janice. Thank you. Take two with Jerry and Debbie, Chris and Catherine, and we've got others as well. Hold on just one second. I wanted to read a post on the take2show.com website. Sandra sent this yesterday.
Yes.
She says, yes, ! Tragic, divisive, demonic, because the child, even the adult child, is part of both parents, so the harm is to all, and a parent who does this has no actual concern for the children. It's seriously self-serving. Typically, financial is at the root of the matter. Wiping out, demeaning a spouse, again, hurts the whole. It shatters the building up and nurturing the true. I'm sorry. It shatters the building up and nurturing that the true parent did. So that's what Sandra had to say on the website, which you're all welcome to post on take2show.com any day about any topic that we do.
Wow. Okay, Chris is up next in Stamford, Connecticut. Another first-time caller. Hi, Chris. Welcome to Take Two.
Hello. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Sure.
My story is, I was listening to Janice's sharing, and that was just remarkable to hear how through prayer and persistence she was able to have such a positive outcome. My own situation is that I'm a father of three beautiful daughters, and I'm going right in the middle of this alienation. It's just awful. My youngest is 10, and my oldest is 14. What's happening in my case is my ex-wife is, we got divorced, going through the annulment process. That's not completed yet, but my ex-wife has turned my oldest daughter really against me. And I think this is part of what you're talking about, Lynn, is this idea that the alienating parent is able to turn the children against a parent, even a very loving father or mother, and I count myself in that category. I've never done anything except be as supportive and loving and as charitable as possible to my children.
Mm-hmm.
So painful. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really tried to nurture them in the faith. We're faithful Catholics, and it's just been so difficult to see this happen. And it's just been a gradual eroding at my relationship with my children. We were so close, and I tried so hard to be there and do everything for them, and it's been so difficult. It's been so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to share my story, but I continue to fight through the courts. My story is unique in the sense that all my daughters, my teenage daughters, counselor, my daughter's mother, sent me an email just 2 weeks ago. She said, "Do not sign any release to the court from the counselor." And I discussed it with a support group and my attorney and some friends and through prayer. I said, it's really important that if there's something in those reports to the therapist and to the counselor that maybe my daughter is being psychologically or in other ways harmed. I know she is. She's gone through. This alienation has been a type of trauma, but it's not like a trauma like a one-time event. It's like a drawn-out trauma. Mm-hmm. That goes over the period, in my case, 9.5 years. But I think your advice is very well placed. That through prayer, we find consolation, and we can. I pray for them, and I pray to our guardian angels. Mm-hmm. I do exactly that. I pray to my guardian angel that they will take this message of love to each of my daughters.
Right. Okay. So, Chris, couple things I want to share with you. And so I want you to really, really listen to every word I'm saying because I mean it from my heart. Okay. Based on what you told us of this story, you are the better parent. You need to remind yourself that every single day. Okay. Because that'll help you get through the emotional trauma of this, Chris. You need to know that. Every day I wake up and every day I look in the mirror and I say, I'm the better parent. And that's why I'm still standing after 11.5 years. The other thing too, Chris, is yes, give your daughters over to our Blessed Mother. I consecrated my kids to the Blessed Mother. My kids are hers. I've done everything I can do on this earth right now. And I'll tell you what, the Blessed Mother's got them. Give your daughters over to the Blessed Mother. Continue to pray to your guardian angel, to talk to their guardian angel. It sounds like your kids were brought up in the faith. Every time you go to Mass, Chris, you are the closest to your daughters at Mass, the closest you could ever be in Christ. And that is an amazing feeling. Hold on to that as well. The other thing too, Chris, is please research as much as you possibly can on parental alienation. There are a ton of websites. Parental Alienation Awareness Organization USA, that's PAAOUSA.org. I'm not endorsing any of these, but they have the literature. It's very hard to get all the information. There's parental alienationawareness.org as well. There's parentalalienation.awarenessday.com. There's so many websites you can get yourself up to date on what's happening in the courts today, what's happening with long-term studies, because long-term studies are coming out right now on what's happened to these children of adults, adult children of parental alienation. So get yourself very well versed on this so you understand what you're up against. And we're going to be praying for you too. There's a big group of us, Chris. There's millions of us. And you know what? If anybody's listening right now and you're going through it, please, I'm begging you, pray for Chris and his family, because you could hear the pain. And I know that pain, Chris. And I just wanted to say, we just have to hold on, okay? Because typically, I just want to say this too, typically, it's the more religious or spiritual parent that is the alienated parent, okay? My ex-husband, my former husband, is Jewish, Okay, so we were definitely miles apart when it came to religion and spirituality. So typically, this is a form of, in my opinion, a form of persecution. This is also that. So you're taking that on as well, Chris. I hope everything I said, but I hope something I said, really takes root in your heart, Chris. You think that's even possible?
No, everything you said is really makes a lot of sense to me and resonates with me. One thing I wanted to ask you was, I've just looked at my own situation, and I guess maybe I don't have a clear perspective on it, but I just assume that this is typical, that this happens in divorce, or am I wrong about that? It doesn't have to be like this, I guess.
Right. It does not have to be like this. There are friendly divorces, believe it or not, but typically there's some subtle nuances of this that don't really take root in this extreme way, like your situation or my situation, Chris. But like in Jerry's situation, he grew up in a divorced family, and Jerry, was there subtle nuances of this a little bit that maybe didn't take root in the family, but possibly was there?
Yeah, if it was subtle, it was even less than that. I can definitely say that my mother had contempt for my dad. I often kind of point a finger at him as saying, you abandoned us and so forth. And he was not a man of strong. He was not a strong man. He had some weaknesses and a little bit of self-loathing, I think. So that was working against us. But I do think that our mother probably didn't do a whole lot to see that we got to spend time with him. We lived about 2 hours apart, and if we saw him every few years, that was about the extent of it. So I don't think there was any, blatant parental alienation. But I think that my mother, could have done a whole lot more to get us connected to our dad. And I will say this: I've said it many times. That has cost me dearly in my life. Being with fatherless and not having that guidance and the instruction and teaching, what it means to be a man and all of that. So, but anyway, I'm
right.
rambling.
Well, no, that's very true. So, Chris, there's different degrees of this, and there are, where both parents, especially if you have parents that have a spiritual foundation, they want the healthy relationship with the other parent, and they want to try to get along and everything. So there's different degrees of this. But I will tell you, Chris, here's what happened, what I learned real quickly. In abuse situations where there's you have a parent that is really abusive, okay, when this has been launched to try and, break those bonds from an abusive parent, that's something very extreme. Well, here's what happened is these other parents who may have narcissistic or sociopathic tendencies or something of that nature, or a personality disorder or something, they have used that same tactic on a loving parent. And that's what it's done. We've distorted and totally ruined a real serious situation. And now it's become commonplace that you can use this manipulative brainwashing technique. And some people know they're doing it. Some people don't even realize they're doing it until it's too late. So I don't know if that answers your question, Chris, but I hope that helps. Did it help?
It does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yep. I think you're right. I think it can be very complicated, and our Blessed Mother, the undoer of knots. It's such a very good description of what she's capable of doing, and that's what this is like. It's like this big knot, an emotional knot that needs to be undone.
You got it.
And when you're in the middle of it, and the children are embroiled in it, it becomes very complicated. The courts get involved, and it just becomes this complex thing. And even when you're, fighting it and trying to get good attorneys and everything, it's really hard. Right. Janice's story is a great story of success. But even if you have very good, competent attorneys, who I have, and costly, this is expensive, and you're doing it with the right intentions, it's hard to get success, right? It's very difficult. It's it's diabolical.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Chris. And Chris, I'll just share this because, I'm very transparent on this show. Okay. My post-divorce cost me over $100,000. I won every single court case, but yet I don't have my children in my life for 11 and a half years. So you talk about complicated and a big web. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And that's why we need to talk about this, because it's happening to millions of people. And it's a tragic thing that's happening from divorce. And it even happens in intact families, Jerry. We have to mention that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to be even quite a different dynamic. But let's go to Catherine in San Antonio, listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Catherine. Welcome.
Here, my baby daughter, Mary.
Okay.
She's with me. Thank you so much, Debbie and Chris. I'm one of 3 daughters, so your story from a father perspective, my heart goes out to you. I'm sort of in the reverse situation where my parents had a beautiful, beautiful marriage. My mom was a devout Catholic. Unfortunately, she was more of the spiritual leader in our family. But she had cancer for 14 years and passed away in 2008. And we were all very close to my dad, and I was extremely close to him. And to the point of after a couple of years, I even was helping him transition the house, update the floors and do all those kind of things around the house to after my mom died. He hadn't gone through her clothes, et cetera. Anyway, he started dating a woman who was a Eucharistic minister, and we all, wanted him to be happy and find companionship. So that wasn't the issue. But what eventually happened over time was this woman became more and more manipulative of him to the point where my older sister and I just tried to set very healthy, normal boundaries for adult children in a step-family situation regarding holidays. We're all having kids ourselves. And she just stonewalled and gaslit every single attempt to spend quality time with our father. She does not respect my mother's memory, and they don't have any photos of her. She's never spoken a word to us as daughters about our mother. She even goes out of her way to make sure my dad cannot attend fundraising events that were to honor my mother. So anyway, they she was pressuring him to get married, and she never got an annulment in the church. She has 3 kids and went through a divorce. That was, I know, an ugly divorce. And she never. Oh, sorry, Nikina. Hold on. She never got an annulment. And I spoke to her very, very kindly about that before they got married, saying, why don't you get an annulment? Why don't trying to disarm some of the misconceptions she had about the process. Anyway, the answer was no. So that was not going to happen.
Catherine, real quickly, we're going to run out of time. I just wanted to say something because I want to address this. That your situation is almost identical to what's happening to one of my very close friends here in Arizona. Almost identical. And I just want to say something. It's very important. There are experts out there, great therapists and great counselors that now do virtual counseling. You don't have to all be together in the same room and stuff. Please, if you can get your dad somehow to be open to some kind of therapy to help, because that's so unfortunate what's happening to your family. It doesn't have to be that way. And this is all because based on your story, from this woman's selfish desires and needs. And that's very unfortunate. But I will tell you, Catherine, there's a lot of experts out there that are now on top of this and can really help your situation specifically. So I want to just say that. And also too, prayer does work, you guys. It does work, especially to Our Lady. Mary wants our families together, all our families. So please just storm her and ask her to help, because she will definitely move quickly. And so, Catherine, I hope, please forgive me, but we're running out of time.
Thank you, Catherine, for the call. We appreciate that. A few other social media comments, all from YouTube. Tracy says, Debbie, this topic is what drew me to your show. Our stories are so similar. And Nikki says, yes, this is part of my life. I do the best I can and hope one day my daughter will realize I had no choice but to leave. And Shannon said, my daughter feels the need to have to choose between me and her adoptive parents. She is 24, so I lose every time. So that's what Shannon, Nikki, and Tracy had to say about the topic.
Oh, wow. A lot of people are hurting, and you don't know what crosses people carry and what they're dealing with. So you know what? The best thing to do is kind of suspend judgment, put those thoughts on the shelf and really get to learn what's going on with somebody and help them, emotionally, because people are hurting, Jerry. So I'm hoping this helps a lot of folks today on this Parental Alienation Awareness Day.
Tomorrow, we're going to cover a topic that Debbie and I, it's the number one prayer intention of everyone that we talk to as we travel around the country, children or grandchildren who have left the faith. Have you had a son or a daughter or multiple kids leave the faith? Maybe they came back. Share that success story. Maybe they're still away and you're praying like St. Monica. Let's have that conversation tomorrow.
Until then, have a beautiful and blessed day. See you real soon.
This is the home of Cresta in the Afternoon, Father Larry Richards, Morning Glory, Marcus Grodi, and Mother Angelica.
She was a mystic and reformer who died at the age of 33.
Matthew Bunson and the Doctors of the Church.
St. Catherine of Siena accomplished something no one thought possible. She convinced Pope Gregory XI to return to Rome after the popes had lived in France for almost the whole of the 14th century. They've been there ever since.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.